Megan, would you mind starting us off with an introduction? Just tell us more about where you're from, your role, and your district.
Yeah, my name's Megan Glazebrook. I've been with Conestoga Public Schools in small town Nebraska for 10 years. I spent my first 8 years in the classroom, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade, and now I've been the elementary instructional coach for the last 2 years.
So I'm excited to learn a little bit about you and your role today. Can you tell me more about what prompted Conestoga to really explore and adopt a student data and assessment solution like Otus?
So 4 years ago, I believe, we were looking for a place to house all of the data district-wide. K-12, we're a smaller district, like I said, but still a ton of data. So to have that solid, concise, one-place spot for all of our data was what we were originally looking for, as well as in our elementary building K-5, we've gone to standards-based grading. We were developing a lot of bumps along that road of how to organize all of that data when instead of having one math grade, you have so many different grades for every single standard, and then how do you compile a final grade based on all that data. So those were kind of our two driving factors at the beginning.
In your work, especially as an instructional coach, I know you're very close to the teachers who are using Otus. How would you say the implementation went in terms of kind of getting that teacher buy-in? Was it difficult to get up and running, or were teachers apprehensive about new technology? Any challenges or obstacles that you all had to face and overcome?
Our director of curriculum, assessment, and instruction actually was the one who started our journey with Otus, and then she kind of knew which grades she could reach out to that would maybe ease into some of this and be willing to try some of it out. And I happened to be in the classroom in 5th grade at that time. My team was all on board, and as a district, we were really allowed to dive in as we wanted. Do you want to try it for just one grade level or one subject area? And the more people have tried it and the more that we've worked with Otus, Michelle is our rep and she's been phenomenal. It's made everything possible, so I feel like all of our buy-in has just kind of snowballed as we've learned that really whatever we want, Otus can do one way or another for us, which is really helped.
Yeah, that's huge. That's definitely an important piece. And I think that natural buy-in from teachers as they kind of got to dip their toes in is probably a very important component.
It's helped a lot.
It's like agency, ownership over the process. I know you mentioned that the data analysis piece kind of brought you in initially to Otus. What were your conversations like about student data before, and then now that you've kind of been up and running with Otus? Has there been any shift in the value of the conversations at all?
I think a lot of our PLC time was focused on compiling and digging through the data. So we had great data. It was hard to access or have meaningful conversations around, where now as we can manipulate it and see exactly what pieces and parts of the data we want to see. So we spend such a small fraction of time pulling the data we want and having more of our time, which teachers don't have a lot of. We get to designate more of our time to having important conversations about what does this data mean for our students, for our teachers, for our next steps.
Love to hear that. Especially in your work with teachers, are there any particular features or tools that they're calling out as like, oh, this is super helpful to me that we can pass along to others in the community? Any specifics that you've heard?
I'd like everyone to use the assessments. The grades that have started using the assessments on there, having the kids access that, and then having all the data go straight into their grade book and be accessible to families is probably where we're at the most right now. We're starting to curve into using it more for the plans feature, which will be new to us this year. And then also through my training this summer, the cohort, I'd really like to push more with like the profile portfolio and having kids add their own pieces to be proud of and having that flow with them from year to year.
Yeah, I imagine the transfer of information at the beginning of the school year, you're kind of seeing that process has been eased a bit.
Yes. We used to have some very long meetings trying to share all this important stuff, and now you can go to that student profile and anything that was deemed important enough to be there hopefully is there. I think the more we all promote it, and like you said, that natural buy-in is going to end up being better.
These things happen.
Yes.
It's difficult to get 100% of the way there, so I totally get that. I heard you say that you all are interested in using plans this year, the progress monitoring feature. Are there any specific ways that you envision that kind of fitting into processes you have with like identification, or if you're doing MTSS, anything you're going to try to use plans specifically for?
So with the new reading law, we're using the plans for our IRIPs for K3. Helps identify based on some early benchmark testing who is going to have a plan. And right now it's all paper copies. You're sending it home, it's getting signed, it's coming back. So to be able to share that digitally and have it follow the student. And then I really like the feature of like they've met their plan, they're working on their plan, because that's all done right now by hand.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the IRIP is your reading plan for Nebraska, like a Nebraska state, is that right? Okay. So that'll be something that you're tracking in Otus.
Yep, we're required to track that right now. It's all been on paper. Our title program has built that based on the reading law. There's been a couple changes over the last couple of years. I was already working with another admin here, kind of sharing how they're doing it, which I think will be really helpful.
Absolutely. I think it'll be great to kind of streamline everything. Obviously, it takes time, like you said, you've kind of slowly built up, but hearing that you're moving more paper into Otus is certainly a good step forward.
I mean, we used to have the data walls with all the information, and then our IRIPs currently, up until hopefully this year, have been housed in our title department in paper files, not as accessible for a teacher to grab if they need a copy, or for parents to see if they had questions. So I think that'll be really helpful.
Anything else that you're working on in the upcoming school year that you are focused on, your team is focused on, that you'd like to share, and then maybe where Otus fits in?
Yep, continuing to push that standards discussion within our PLCs, and some things that we looked at this morning within analytics I think will really help narrow down how kids are doing on standards and what we can do to move them forward. And then another discussion that we've been having is just how we can use recognitions to track student behavior. We were originally identifying negative recognitions only. We'd really like that push for the positive as well, just to bring the focus back to positive behavior. But we did get some great baseline data this last year on some of the common misbehaviors that we see within our building. Then we can use that data to even help provide more training for our teachers or more support for them in the classroom.
The focus for Conestoga seems very data driven, so that's fantastic. Seems like you have a lot of different points that you're using to kind of push things forward. So kudos to y'all. It's not easy to have data at the forefront like that. Just one more fun question for you. You seem so passionate about your work with teachers, you work with students. What makes Conestoga such a special place for staff and students?
So we talked about the size of the school we're in now, and I grew up in Omaha, one of the biggest high schools, graduated with 500 kids. There are kids in my graduating class that I didn't know, so being in a small school, raising my boys in a small school, that everything is, we're all here for all of our kids, and that's been my favorite thing about Conestoga.
Oh, I love that. Well, we're excited to follow your journey this year. I appreciate you being here today and sit down.
Absolutely, thank you.